Well, looking back now, we were very fortunate. We were one of the first original C40, and I think during the time of Mayor Livingston from London, whose original idea was to put together a group of cities, they wanted obviously cities from East Asia as well. So Hong Kong being the one of the dominant financial centers, they thought they wanted to include us. We were invited to join, which of course we agreed to. Well, because we were there from the beginning, so I guess we were part of the growing, aching pains as well. But I think we were open-minded to let's just be a part of this. We spent some time obviously talking to the Mayor Livingston's office before we joined. But I think having joined now for a number of years, and Hong Kong having also hosted a major workshop in 2010, we feel that, just talking to other cities, sharing our collective pain and how to deal with so many problems, and sometimes to our delight, we were able to offer some of our own ideas to others that we think this is a very practical network to be a part of. Well, let me give you two examples. The one that we were completely blown away by was Tokyo's example of emissions trading for buildings. And when we first heard of this was in 2010 when we had our workshop in Hong Kong, and Tokyo came and said this was what they were working on. And I think the whole audience, all the other cities, C40 cities that were there, all went, wow, you must be kidding. But I think over time they've worked through the details and it's being implemented. And indeed we invited the Tokyo officials to come back to Hong Kong subsequently to talk more, in detail about their ideas. So as I said, we just blown us away. The other idea is New York's idea of putting bicycle tracks in Manhattan. And I think before New York did it, cities like ours said, well, it's just too difficult. But, well, somebody has done it. Well, I've been thinking about this, and obviously cities are very different. But, Hong Kong was not as rich or wealthy or developed a city as we are today. Going back to maybe the 1970s, 80s. Now looking at Johannesburg, which is a city that has come and developed very quickly in the last decade or so, I think that maybe one piece of advice is, building the right infrastructure always seems so expensive. And maybe there are so many other needs that you'd go and do something else first. But boy, some of the infrastructure is so needed that is related to water and sewage and waste management. Do that, because when you look back, you say, I wish I'd done that first. And we have that experience in Hong Kong. So, maybe for Johannesburg, make the right priorities going forward, you won't regret it. I think at a city level, we need ideas that work because we want to take them and implement them tomorrow, or we need to know why something didn't work for another city, or sometimes just sharing a very practical tip. Now, at the national level, I think the national policymakers are not getting down to necessarily the nitty-gritty of whether, let's say, one type of technology or one brand or one type of solution is the most useful. But, if you're running a city officials need to go into that level of detail. So again, the usefulness is for practitioners, implementers, to share at that level. Now, of course, at a higher level, I think the cities are beginning to get to national discussions about delivery of results on the ground. And I think most recently with the interest of the UN in involving C40, I think that's maybe demonstration that city, regions, and national governments, we can all be dialoguing a lot better. We need to do everything really well so that we can capture the efficiency as well as to create space for people to nevertheless enjoy it. I mean, the mayor of Copenhagen, he's been talking about his message to his people is we want a livable city. So when you have not much space and you have a lot of density, high rises, what does livability means for a city like Hong Kong? How can we still, nevertheless, create the open spaces for people to enjoy? Because actually we have very small homes and we're packed very close together. Now, I think for a lot of other developing cities, they're going high-rise as well, and there isn't a lot of space around. So maybe the extreme case sometimes can offer some insights to others. Well, I guess for other cities, if they're looking at the high-rise solution, because one of the things that cities don't want today is the very spread out, the sprawl. I think we all recognize that that's not good. Now, if it means you're going to have to do a lot on a smaller space, how do we make it efficient? and nevertheless for people to still say, I feel comfortable here. Now, Hong Kong, as I said, is an extreme solution. So we think we have something to offer to other people. And by looking at other people, how they have managed to link things up for even greater efficiency, if we can do that in Hong Kong, then we've got a win-win solution for us. The construction sector, what they're really saying is, we want clean air. So they were not against us tightening the air quality objectives. And frankly, going forward, we're going to continue to tighten them. The question is, as we also want to develop, as we also want to build new infrastructure, how can we design and operate them in a way that it meets these higher standards? So I think nobody disagrees with that. So I think what really needs to be done is for government and for the business sector to work more closely in partnership so that we can identify early on at the design stage what is it that we need to do. So that's one perspective. The other perspective is, well, frankly, we now also know from air science that in any one airshed, you only have so much capacity to deal with the pollution. So if we wanted new infrastructure, well, there are other areas where we need to ram down the emissions. There's no way past the science. I think what's very interesting at this stage is there is a transition to a new mayor and also a new team at the Secretariat of C40. There seems to be a lot of energy and hope in taking this organization even further. So I look very much forward to the next stage of development for C40.